Thank you, Malithia. Thanks for having me here today, guys. I'm John Kantz. I'm one of the founders of Blockit. We're a healthcare technology company in McKinney, Texas. And we're here. We started our company because we believe that technology can create unprecedented improvement in healthcare. A couple of the ways we see that happening are when you have big data sets across large groups of patients, you can start to spot risk patterns. So people who are at risk at cancer or other things. There's also opportunities to evaluate your costs and see what costs might be unnecessary, and determining how we're doing long-term, treating patients in certain ways. One of the examples of a technology-fueled improvement in healthcare is value-based care. If you've heard about this, this is effectively payers, the government, health insurance companies, paying doctors based on how their patients feel, not what they did. So that looks like them evaluating how healthcare is turning out over the long term and not paying for services. In fact, this movement is sweeping healthcare by storm. 50% of all healthcare will be paid through a value-based contract in 2018. So that's a pretty big change for healthcare and how it's paid for. For doctors, that means it's absolutely critical to manage the cost and quality of their care. And one of the hardest things for them to manage is when their patients leave their office to go to another office. That process is called the referral process. When they're referring a patient out of their office, it means costs are going up and their ability to track the patient is going down, which means it's absolutely one of the biggest pain points right now in the healthcare process. Let me give you an example. So there's 900 million appointments in healthcare every year. Half of those are referrals, which means one doctor is sending a patient to another doctor, and half of those completely disappear, which means if you're a doctor who sent a patient, half of that time, you don't know what happened to the patient. You don't know if they got the care they needed, if they're feeling better or whatnot. They just are gone. For one of our customers in Houston, one of our pilot customers, that looks like 47% of their patients either don't follow through. 47% of the patients do follow through. So that means 53% either don't follow through, or if they followed through, they have no idea what happened to them. That's a big problem. But one of the things we looked for as we dug and we found is that it was 31 days on average between the time they were referred and they could get an appointment. So let me ask you this question. If you were sick and you went to your doctor and he said, I can't help you, I need to send you to somebody else, and you had to wait 31 days to get an appointment, how likely would you be to go? Unlikely. So what we felt like was needed was open table for referral scheduling. Basically, they can search by availability of any provider in their network to see who's available for that particular procedure type. Well, does that improve healthcare? We think it does. We've seen a 90% patient referral follow-through, which is basically a 100% increase from before. And we've seen an average time between sending the patient and them getting an appointment drop down to 4 days. That's a ridiculous improvement just by using our solution. And even better for the patient, it takes them about 90 seconds to get an appointment. That's like brushing your teeth. You have your healthcare appointment. So instead of them being on the phone 5, 6, 7 times, waiting 30 days, 90 seconds, pretty amazing. But one of the most important things about this is that it increases transparency in the healthcare environment because patients now can see where they're being sent and they can see what options are available to them at their doctor's office. So while doctors are being incentivized to save money and to increase the efficiency of their care, patients now can see, where am I being sent and is this the best place for me? Our economic model is as follows: about $1 per appointment. 2021, we anticipate $27 million in revenue, which is about a 3% market penetration just on referrals. And what enables us to do this is kind of our novel approach of integrating to any software system that any provider is using. This has not been done before in healthcare the way we're doing it, and it allows us a huge advantage. Where are we right now? Well, we're looking for 1.2 million in our seed raise. About 500 of that is actually funded right now by customers who are using Blockit today, and 750 has been spoken for as of this week. So actually, as of this morning, on my way here. So that's pretty cool. It's an awesome story that's just from customers that are using Blockit or are planned to be using Blockit, but we are willing to oversubscribe our round. So the team, myself, Jake, he's the founder, kind of the visionary behind this product, and Steve is our CTO. He is a really awesome technologist, sold his last company to Twitter. So that's all about Blockit. I appreciate your time today. I'd love to field any questions after about our technology or about our raise. We are looking right now for learning relationships with awesome customers. That's the biggest thing we're looking for. Secondarily to that, we're looking for anyone that would like to be a part of our seed round. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Turn off my timer here. Thank you so much. I still have a lot to learn about your company. Like I've been on your website. I think it's fantastic. I can certainly see the convenience of it and just the overall efficiency for the healthcare organization. I'm always trying to get away from this light. So I'm hoping we have some great engagement from the audience on the Q&A. Matt is going to manage Q&A today. I only ask that you hold on to the microphone until your question is completely answered, because oftentimes it sparks like a second part. So Matt's going to come out onto the floor.
First of all, congratulations on the other seed money today.
Thank you.
Very nice presentation. In addition to the patients who I assume will get faster appointments, who are all the other sources who are benefiting from your service?
So that's a great question. Mainly it's the provider who's sending the patient, because they're getting paid on how the patient does in their follow through. So the sending provider gets paid more. The receiving provider obviously gets the revenue from the patient showing up. So that's a big benefit. And the payers get the connection between both providers, so they now know where the patient is. And so it's most valuable to Cigna, Aetna, United, the big payers, because they can now track their patients through the ambulatory environment, which ambulatory is basically anywhere outside of a hospital, which right now is extremely difficult. They're tracking, basically piecing together data 60 days lagging. So this is like a big deal for the payers.
All right, second question, who actually pays for the dollar? Is it the person who seeks the appointment or the doctor who gets the appointment?
So right now, the sending provider and the receiving provider contribute. They both pay for the platform. The patient, it's free.
Okay, last question. Could you help me understand the name and the meaning behind it, Blockit, and how does it relate to this?
Well, we're just a couple of entrepreneurs, and yeah, I mean, we're just, I don't know. It's a name. We got the trademark. I don't know. I think your mic's off.
You don't want me to ask question. Okay, so does this have to be, is it regulated by, was that FDA, HIPAA, and those kind of things?
Yes, we spend quite a bit on HIPAA attorneys. So.
Okay, so that's approved. That's already gone through and approved?
Yes, we're HIPAA compliant, yes.
Okay, so the second question is, are you working with health wildcatters?
No, we are not.
Do you know who they are?
Yes, yeah.
I don't need the mic, I got a big voice. So, two questions for you. My first question is, have you tapped into the veteran community, taking into consideration that, you know, the veteran need for healthcare is the biggest need right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. We haven't specifically tapped into VA care because I think with the VA, a lot of times it's it's done as part of the VA system, which they're all on the same system. So technically, this could be possible for them, I think, if they wanted to do it. The bigger problem is for patient populations all over the world that are scattered throughout places where there's different doctors' offices they're going to, but the providers can't schedule into one another's calendars, and so yeah, I mean it is a big problem, but it's not for a lack of capability, I think, in the VA.
And then my second question was, you said at the end that you had a need for people who want to grow and be a part of something that's growing. What exactly is it that you need?
Yeah, it's a great question. We are right now looking for learning customers, so customers who are willing to help us kind of refine our process as we're implementing, or who'll be patient with that process. You know, there's 700 different software systems in healthcare, and we can integrate to them all, but sometimes you see a new one and it takes a different process. And so, you know, rolling out across an ambulatory environment in healthcare just takes time to perfect. And so customers who are willing to bear with us in that process and help us learn from their process and develop dashboards and, you know, the data that they need to see are our ideal customers right now.
Based on your name, company's name, I'm guessing you are using the blockchain technology.
We were before blockchain became popular, so.
Okay. Another unrelated question is that you mentioned about you will connect both referring and receiving physicians. Mm-hmm. So what about the patient's role in your platform? Are they going to kind of like fill up some forms, or what will be exactly role for the patient themselves? And another one is that you mentioned about you connect, passing through those HIPAA regulations. Your platform is kind of like connected or integrated to those EMR system, or like a practice manager system, or what do you try to solve those connection issues?
Yeah, it's a great question. That is what's holding healthcare back, folks, is the fact that provider A's software system can't communicate with provider B's. And so we connect them. We have a novel approach for this. It's low cost, very efficient, very quick. We are a technology company, so it's a technology-based solution, not a labor-based solution, which many of the integration approaches today are, and why they cost so much. The advantage to the patient is this, that a patient can be a part of the decision-making process about where they go with their doctor sitting right there, based on availability now, as well as who they need to see. So the patient now can speak into their care and say, hey, I would really like an appointment in 20 minutes because I took the day off work. And yeah, I know you want to send me to this guy over here, but I really need to see somebody today. And that can happen now. I mean, it happens all the time on our platform. And that's a game changer for the patient. There's no forms they have to fill out because they're already filling out those forms to get the referral when they enter the doctor's office. And we're pulling that information out of their EMR already. So we're pulling their patient record. And so when we're sending over the referral, the patient is literally just sitting there making a decision, and the provider or the referral person or the practice admin is just selecting a time based on their discussion. But it takes 90 seconds, including the conversation.
Hi. May I know who are the competitors for your product?
So right now there's none. Hooray. There are scheduling solutions right now. The problem is this. If you think of a a community, like a bunch of people sitting in a room, and you guys are all doctors. The scheduling solutions that exist are 3 of you guys have this software system. So here, you can use our scheduling system. You, and you over there. What we say is, who wants to send referrals? Everybody? Or say you, Jason. You want to send referrals? Well, who do you want to send to? This whole side of the room. Okay, we can connect all of their software systems. Doesn't matter what they're on. We can connect you to them. So the current solutions right now go by software solution. We can go by community. Completely different. It's like there's not even, in terms of the value or the usefulness, there's nothing on the market. There are a couple people that have approached our functionality, but I don't want to get into like a deep discussion, but it's not worked because of their approach. Yeah.
And I have one more question. And the revenue model is only based on appointments, or is there a subscription for a doctor to participate in your product or program?
Yeah. So right now there's a minimum subscription cost, so they have to send so many appointments, and so we guarantee a minimum revenue source from the doctor. But then as their appointment volume goes up, it switches to appointment per appointment. Yvette, super entrepreneur, by the way. Everybody needs to meet her. I love her product.
Thank you. I know. Thank you. This may be a slightly odd question, but considering that my husband's in pharmaceutical sales, I can't help but to ask. When you're making the referrals, or when the doctor's making the referrals, is it the actual patient that's going online, getting that information, or inputting that information, or is the doctor doing it for them?
It's pretty much automated. They're just selecting the time. So either the doctor can select the time, or they can send a link to the patient for the patient to select the time. If the patient doesn't have their calendar, like my wife used one of those big old calendars, they can send a link to the patient, so they just select the time. But there's no putting in any information or filling out forms. They've already done that in the doctor's software system.
So therefore, there's no issues with like drug interactions and all that other good stuff?
No, we don't do any patient education. We make no care recommendations. We're just really a communication and scheduling tool. So.
I've been to the doctor before when they've had a couple of different options for a referral. How do you address that when there's more than one specialist I can go to?
Yeah, there often is. An average, community of care providers might be 1,000 or 1,500 providers that are being referred to out of a primary care office. Yeah, it's quite a decision algorithm that they have to go through in terms of whoever's sending that patient. They have to decide where to send them. The only part of that we're addressing is the scheduling component. So however they're making all their other decisions today based on network or preference or quality that they feel or relationships, we're not altering any of that.
So what if the doctor says, well, you can go to Dr. X or Dr. Y, just depending upon who's available first. I like them equally. I work with them. So do I get access to the schedule for both of the doctors so that I can see who's available as soonest?
Great question. So it's like Open Table. When you go on, you're basically selecting by time slot. You're saying like, I want to know, you're selecting by, on Open Table, how many people are going. So 2 people for dinner, right, on Open Table. And you're basically you're sorting availability based on who has an availability for 2 people for dinner. It's the same way on our system, except we're selecting by a procedure type. So the doctor says, oh, you need to get some kind of MRI or something. We're only looking for specifically that type of MRI, but the doctor can search, however many providers he wants, but only for that type of EMR. Or he can send a link to the patient where the patient says, hey, I can go to one of these 4 places, but I know if I'm booking in, I'm only booking in a time slot for this MRI.
I see.
So.
I think that's really the key in terms of clarity, I would say it's not, it's like with Open Table, it's like I'm really selecting cuisine type because you're saying it's service type, right? Yeah. So I thought with this service, I was having to say, okay, I'm going to Dr. John, and then I'm looking at your availability, but that's really not what it is. It's like, I know I'm having an MRI, that's the cuisine for me on Open Table. It's just who's available. I get it now. Thank you. Cool. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
We really appreciate it.